Good evening. It's a pleasure to join you for the 2021 Animal Health Hackathon. Before diving in, the opinions that I provide are my own and do not reflect those of my current employer, Amazon. I'm grateful for the invitation by the organizers to speak briefly about disruptive innovation and want to first spend several minutes discussing the meaning of this phrase. We'll call that part one, before turning our attention to part two, which is identifying unmet needs and opportunities, and then part three, creating innovative solutions to difficult problems. To frame this talk, you should know that I'm a noob in the area of animal health with very limited experiences. First, like many of you, I grew up with and cared for small animals. In my case, rescued cats, a dog, and a piranha. Second, I spent several summers in my youth on a family cattle farm in Iowa and a year as a teenager operating a small hobby farm in rural Indiana with small and large animals. Third, I later participated in global animal health projects with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and co-founded a now defunct Wisconsin-based startup that was improving dairy cattle health. This is effectively the extent of my perspective. Part one, disruptive innovation. The concept of disruptive innovation was introduced by Professor Clay Christensen from the Harvard Business School to explain innovation-driven growth in businesses. Disruption is fundamentally the process in which a company, more often than not a small company, challenges an established business. The established business, which we refer to as the incumbent, is focused on building better products and services for their most profitable customers. In this role, they may exceed their capacity to serve less profitable customers, or even ignore them altogether. This scenario provides a toehold for a small company to innovate on behalf of these less profitable customers and deliver new products and services to them. As they succeed, they may continue to move up market and eventually innovate on behalf of the incumbent's primary customers. As they do this, they continue to preserve the advantages that drove their early success, which may include low cost and lower quality, but with the caveat that quality steadily improves and eventually matches or surpasses the incumbent. Disruption occurs when an incumbent starts to adopt the company's offerings at volume. The formula for disruptive innovation appears well baked. However, there are different ways to get there. In what we'll call case one, you have a hunch who your customers are, and those customers may not yet know what they want. So you have to innovate in a direction you think is right for them. In what we'll call case two, you figure out exactly who your customers are, and through engaging with them, determine precisely what they want. Smartphones are a good example of case one. The first commercial computers were mainframes, which then led to desktop computers, and then laptops, and eventually led to smartphones. Smartphones are now, as we know, the most prevalent platform for accessing the internet. In 2020, more than 50% of global website traffic came through mobile devices. And Apple's credited with playing a key role in launching the smartphone industry. They had a hunch that customers wanted to use a mobile device to connect to the internet, and it turns out they were right. Some of these customers were laptop users, but many were not. These types of case one examples are difficult to predict because you're basically inventing on behalf of a customer who may not know what they want. It wasn't clear at the time that customers wanted to connect to the internet via phone. However, Apple had a history and culture of thinking this way about predicting customer needs. At a 1982 planning retreat at Apple, someone on the Mac team, quote, thought they should do some market research to see what customers wanted. No, Steve Jobs replied, because customers don't know what they want until we've shown them. Retail medical clinics are a good example of these case two examples. Retail medical clinics, and here think Walgreens, Rite Aid, CVS, innovate on behalf of customers for whom their needs are not being addressed. A number of standard medical tests such as blood pressure or cholesterol tests and procedures such as flu vaccinations used to require a visit to a physician's office, which for some was expensive and for most was inconvenient. Retail medical clinics were created with the realization that a niche exists for providing these routine services. Most healthcare at the time was provided out of physicians' offices or hospitals, which had the expertise to diagnose and treat broadly. By contrast, retail medical clinics offered standardized approaches to diagnose a subset of standard medical conditions, focusing on those that did not require highly trained staff and specialized offices, and thereby providing easy, inexpensive, and convenient services based on repeatable processes. Once they were successful with these initial offerings, they could expand and grow into other offerings in other areas of healthcare. Part two, let's talk about identifying unmet needs and opportunities. As mentioned previously, companies that are disrupting begin by successfully targeting segments that are not attended to by incumbents. As we touched on in case two, there is tremendous value in identifying an area of opportunity, figuring out who precisely the customer is, and getting to know their very specific problem. Potential customers are often helpful when they learn that you are trying to innovate on their behalf. They will take time out of a busy day for an interview to answer your questions. Getting out into the real world to get the customer right can save lots of pain downstream and avoid building a product that nobody wants, something that I've embarrassingly done, or realizing you built a product for the wrong customer, something I have embarrassingly done as well. For example, in animal health, you may innovate on behalf of animals. However, the animals are not your customers. You need to obsess over your specific customers, who could include the animal owners, veterinarians, the person at the vet office who has the fun job of descaling animal teeth, ranch hands, municipal employees who enforce the cleanup after your pet policies on sidewalks, USDA officials, carnivores purchasing food, and so on. You need to figure out exactly what their pain points are and focus on solving those specifically. In the hackathon forum, you don't have time to go out and extensively interview hundreds of potential customers after you identify them. However, you're surrounded by enough expertise to start understanding your customers and their pain points. Here, a helpful mantra is figure out who your customers are as early as possible. Part three, we'll briefly talk about creating innovative solutions to difficult problems. And as you know, this is not easy. Many of the problems you're thinking about, they've been thought of before. In fact, they've been thought of possibly many times before. However, they may have not been tackled by the right people at the right time using the right approaches, and that is where you step in. A key step to creating innovative solutions is to leverage contributions from a diverse team, working backward from customer problems. Dissect and break down the problem. That's kind of the next step. Spend a significant amount of time brainstorming solutions. Go crazy with Post-it notes on the wall. With some ground rules in place that you establish to help your team stay focused and stimulate creativity, you need to create that culture in which people feel safe sharing crazy ideas. Listen to every perspective. Everyone at the table has a different way of thinking about things and a unique skill set, and truly all opinions are valuable. Try to look at the problem with a sense of childlike wonder and curiosity. How would a child think about this if you could simplify it for them? Stretch your imagination by proposing the craziest ideas you can think of. I mean, go seriously crazy, go nuts. And ideally generate lots of those and put them on the Post-its and put them on the wall for evaluation. If you're close to the customer or solution area, in terms of your expertise, force yourself to look at the problem as an outsider and ask the basic questions that seem obvious. Many times they're not. Putting up as many ideas as possible is key for solutions. You winnow them down, you stress test the best ones, up-select the top idea, and then do yourself a favor, harden it by gathering as much data and evidence as you can to support the approach and give it feet. Talk to customers again at that point about the solution. Get their feedback early and often, and then refine. And remember that tech is only one component and one part of the solution. In fact, disruptors often focus on getting both the product or service and the business model right. In addition to the physical solution, the business model may be actually the key to the proposed innovation that you bring to the problem. And remember to be inclusive. Diverse teams, thinking about, for example, culture, age, training, etc., can be very powerful tools. Having different perspectives, including outsiders to the area, ensures that the raw questions are being asked that challenge the status quo. As non-intuitive solutions to customer problems often arise by stacking components from different areas, diverse teams are well positioned to succeed. So in summary, I grew up reading James Herriot's All Creatures Great and Small, and I deeply fell in love with the imagery of conventional veterinary medicine. As I sat down recently to bring myself up to speed on current events in animal health in light of this hackathon, I couldn't help but notice a significant departure from James Herriot's world in terms of providing opportunities to treat more precisely and scalably. It strikes me as an exciting time to innovate and impact the health of small and large animals. There are lots of opportunities and technologies to draw on. Several areas of opportunity are highlighted on the slide, including veterinary medicine being well positioned to adopt technologies from human medicine, spanning hardware, services, and all the way down to molecules. I'm particularly excited to see the impact you'll make in this hackathon and wish you success. Go Big Red.